An era ended yesterday as the greatest college football coach in history, Nick Saban, announced he was retiring in Alabama, and instantly the speculation of who will have the unfortunate task of following him went rampant, and it should. It's one of the biggest stories out there, and we're about to cover it here. But before we do that, can we all just take a second to recognize his greatness? Because we don't get to see this every day. You rarely get to see it multiple times. And the question that should be being asked isn't just how he did it, but why he did it. Because the how's pretty evident. We all know he built a machine, and when you add the resources, the best scheme, the best players at a place that is more passionate about college football than pretty much any other, the finished product can be great. But in my opinion, the why is what helped him win more than anything. Now, we only really get to see one side of Nick Saban for the most part, the disciplinarian with laser focus, who isn't afraid to coach his players hard, falls in love with the routine. And we've seen him go crazy on the sidelines and get mad at the media. But to attain the success that he did for as long as he did takes way more than that. Because the truth is, Nick Saban is a people person. He genuinely cares about his players as people, not just athletes. That's the only way you can get the most out of an individual as a leader, is if they truly know you love them and you care about them. And if you have ever talked to anyone who Nick Saban has coached or recruited, they'll tell you he's hilarious. And there's a side of him that most will never get to see, and that's probably by design. Now, to me, that was the secret sauce for him. And not many people will be talking about that today, and that's a shame. Now, Saban isn't perfect, I'm not saying that, and most fan bases will be happy he won't be lurking over the realm as college football's overlord anymore. Hell, I'm from Auburn, I'm not going to cry any tears, you'll get no sympathy from me, but we can all recognize his greatness, and we should. So kudos to the GOAT, the chosen one, the missile with a whistle, Coach Nick Saban. We bring in former Michigan quarterback, married to the daughter of Richard Todd. So there's a big tie in there to Alabama. David Cohn, my brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crane. And David, it's going to be fun to talk about who replaces him. I would not, as great as Alabama is, and you look at what Nick Saban did, not just on the football field, but bringing in people from out of state, right? People from New Jersey weren't going to Alabama because of the academics or because of the town of Tuscaloosa. Right, you went there because of the football team. Nick Saban is Alabama. So why would you want to be the guy that replaces him? To me, I would, especially if you're in a good spot, I want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced the GOAT.
Yeah, you said that.
That's who I want to be. But just overall, Nick Saban retiring, the greatest to ever do it.
I love your open. I thought you said a lot of great things there. I was on radio live yesterday with our friends over at Sports 56 when this broke, and honestly, I thought that they were pulling my leg at first because nothing had broken on the story just yet. But Nick Saban retiring from Alabama is truly the end of an era. He won his first championship at Alabama my senior year when I was at Michigan. And the only thing I can compare it to since we've been doing this is Tom Brady retiring, to where every accolade and every statistic is more impressive than the last. And everybody today is going to be talking about the championships. They're going to be talking about the wins. But something not a lot of people are going to talk about, you alluded to it a little bit, is the impact that he had on the university and the community. So in 2007, when Nick Saban arrived in Tuscaloosa, Alabama's enrollment increased since then from 25,000 students a year to 40,000 students. Ooh. Now that's a 60% jump compared to a 10% national average. And the type of student that began to enroll was out of state rather than in-state. So now the majority is out of state, where the tuition dollars are 3 times in-state dollars. So Alabama paid Nick Saban $130 million over 16 seasons, and you could argue that he brought in billions of dollars, not just to the university, but also to the city of Tuscaloosa. That's why he was the highest paid coach in college football. That's why every other program around the country is paying these guys tens and hundreds of millions of dollars and moving on from them so quickly, because it's been proven if you can get that right guy, the impact he can have on a community and the growth you can see is exponential. Now, I have no doubt that one of the reasons Nick Saban decided to retire now rather than a few seasons from now is the changing landscape in college football. And look, every industry experiences change. That on the surface is not just a bad thing. What's wrong with college football right now is there's so much change with a lack of leadership. So I'll say this directly to Nick Saban. Now that you have retired after just a storybook career, please get into a leadership position with college football. I know that the TV networks have already called and there may already be offers in place, and certainly TV can pay a lot more, but college football needs you more. You're the one guy who would be unanimously listened to across the board, and I think with even 1 week of your leadership, very impactful change could be made to the sport. But congratulations on 50 years of excellence in a field where it's hard to keep a job for 5 minutes.
Oh, without a doubt, and it's harder than ever right now. Blaine, I wasn't alive to watch John Wooden. I wasn't, alive for some of these runs we've seen that have been dynastical in the NFL. The 72 undefeated Dolphins with Coach Shula. Did get to see Belichick. Obviously, remember Phil Jackson. But, man, this is it's the biggest story in a long time.
Oh, guys, guys. Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, Lord. You did it. As a college football fan, look, Nick, you're the GOAT, obviously. We know that. We hate to see you leave. But as an Auburn fan, thank you for everything. Just go. Go to the lake. Hang out with Miss Terry. Do what you need to do, but please just get away. Help out college football. That's great. Help out college football. Just not Alabama. Just not them. I saw somebody say today that the reason the college football playoff committee let Alabama in is they knew it was Saban's last year.
If you look at kind of the way if you put together the dots a little bit, not that, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard. You asked the question, we're going to get to the Booster Club. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. We're going to be taking live calls. The phone line's open at 7:15. We want to hear from you. The coaches that it impacts the most, obviously you got to look within the conference, right? We can talk about the big dogs, Michigan, and the ones from outside the conference, but people that are in your own backyard, right? Kirby Smart, obviously. Mm-hmm. Well, we always ask the question, Nick Saban, we know, is the greatest college football coach of all time. Who's the greatest college football coach right now? And I think it's Kirby Smart. Mm-hmm. This obviously creates a vacuum at the top. Jim Harbaugh, right, at Michigan. What's he going to do after winning a national championship? But I think the two coaches that affects the most are Hugh Freeze, obviously Alabama's rival, Kirby Smart. You look at Josh Heupel.
Ole Miss, Josh
Heupel. We can name every SEC team, but really that inner circle of Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia,
Brian Kelly,
LSU, Brian Kelly. Those are the first four that I thought about. So we're going to get into who his replacement is, but again, it's the changing of a guard. Just reminds me like in England when they got those British guys with the funny hats that stand there and they're not allowed to move. Like when they change the guard, they just go walking off and the other guy just comes walking on. I don't know why I got that image of that. And it wasn't Dan Lanning who was coming to walk back in.
The fact that this team he had this year was on the younger side and you're returning a quarterback, you're returning some key pieces. That's why I thought for sure Nick Saban would return next year. We've seen Mike Krzyzewski step down recently. Roy Williams, a lot of good coaches. Do you think these coaches are sort of being run out by the way college athletics is being run now and just a never-ending free agency period with the transfer portal? They get no time off now.
Yeah, you obviously look at that. You look at the changing and it had something to do with it. Like I'm wondering, as more information comes out, how much of this decision was Nick Saban? Because it wasn't Alabama that made the decision, it was Nick Saban. And how much of it was his wife? We talked about Miss Terry a lot this past year. And that's to me the only person in his circle that could be like, hey, it's time to go. And he would listen. Hell, I've been married since May. I get it. I understand it. So I think it's that. I think it's, having, as old as he is, I know he still has the passion and the fire, but as old as he is, eventually you got to walk away. Like eventually and you finished going, he didn't finish leaving Alabama, and he would say this, I'm not going to leave Alabama in a bad place after I've built it up like this. You just made the college football playoff. You look at that roster. Now the crazy thing is the transfer portal opens up for Alabama players. There's going to be a raid on that roster. But I want to get into who's going to replace him because that's going to be the fodder for today. But I just want to make sure that we talked about, the why and how he was able to maintain its success and the person that a lot of people, unless you're, connected or tapped in, really don't know about. And to me, that was important. And that's how you string that success together while being malleable at the top. I think those are a couple of his biggest strengths. Hey, YouTube, unlike Nick Saban, we're never going to retire. But man, it would be nice to have half the success that he did. And with your help, we can. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, turn that notification bell on. Go grab some merch too while you're at it.